People give out about the number of different Spider-Man films. We have had 3 different Peter Parkers in the last 15 years after all, but there have been way more Spider-Man games. Arcade games, PS1 games, movie tie-in games, cool standalone games, and even more movie tie-in games. You could understand if gamers had a much worse case of Spider-Man fatigue than moviegoers. The Spider-Man multiverse was gigantic long before Into the Spider-Verse. However, it was nothing but excitement when Marvel's Spider-Man came along. There had been a dearth of superhero games since the explosion of superhero films, but it was also the perfect match of license and developer. It seemed like Insomniac Games was the perfect team to make a Spider-Man game. It turns out, they were. In honor of Spider-Man Far From Home's release, let's take a look at one of the best games of 2018. In some ways, Spider-Man is a game that shouldn't work nearly as well as it does. As an open world game, it ticks the boxes of all the things people have been complaining about for years and years. You have to go from tower to tower to unlock the map. The map is then littered with collectibles and side missions for you to check off. The city, while absolutely stunningly rendered, is little more than an obstacle for you to swing around. You go to unique areas for missions, so you don't really interact with the world at large in meaningful ways. And yet, there is one thing that ties the whole experience together. One thing that makes everything you thought you were over about open world games worthwhile. Moving around that city is so satisfying that it makes everything else feel fresh again. The thing you will hear people say after playing this game is that it makes you feel like you're Spider-Man. You'll become so entranced by his web-slinging antics that you'll instinctively try to pull a mask off when you're done playing. You'll think you're Spider-Man, but you're not Spider-Man. I wish I was Spider-Man. The game achieves this effect in a number of ways. From the satisfying thwip every time you shoot a web, to Spidey's detailed acrobatic animations, to the speed at which you can transition from running on walls back to swinging through the city, to the various options you have at your disposal to keep your momentum going. You can see how they painstakingly recreated the experience of Spider-Man's web slinging as fluidly as possible. As web fluidly as possible, some may say. You can also see where webs you shoot connect to buildings, and you can't shoot webs when you're either above a building or when there's nothing to shoot at, making the whole experience feel more tangible and less video gamey. It's realism in the service of enhancing gameplay rather than detracting from it. As a result, flying through that city is the absolute best. When I first saw one of the earliest collectibles in the game was find 55 backpacks, I rolled my eyes. Typical boring open world game. Then I proceeded to go collect all 55, because the movement made finding them so much fun. The game has a fast travel option, Spider-Man rather amusingly takes the subway, but you'll rarely use it. You'll just want to go there yourself. The city is large enough that you won't be seeing the same thing over and over, but not so large that getting from A to B ever feels like a pain. Movement is the true joy of Marvel's Spider-Man. Though thankfully, it is not the only joy. The game has plenty of variety to keep you busy on top of swinging around a digital New York. You have backpacks to find, research stations to complete, hideouts and outposts to clear, pigeons to chase, landmarks to photo, and regular friendly neighborhood crimes to prevent. While as I said, the open world having so many checks to mark doesn't feel new, they do give you tons of different things to do so that it never feels monotonous or repetitive. Not to mention the absolute delight that is J. Jonah Jameson's wild rantings and ravings about the city menace that is Spider-Man.
This is Just the Facts with J. Jonah Jameson, where listeners like you discuss the issues affecting our city with Pulitzer Prize winning two-time Pulitzer Prize winning former publisher of the Daily Bugle.
Hey, plug the book.
And as always, if you order Mr. Jameson's book, Spider-Man, Threat or Menace, within 24 hours of our broadcast, you'll get an autographed copy at no extra charge.
No personalizations, don't ask, not gonna get it.
He also has a podcast now, which does make him more relatable. I too have a podcast, far too many. The story missions have a similar variety, some focus on stealth, some on combat, some with amazing dramatic set pieces. Mary Jane is also a playable character, taking on her own stealth and exploration missions, which, while not thrilling, it's nice that they're in there. The game even slows down every so often to give you time with Peter Parker away from the hero spotlight, fleshing out his real job and personal life. This also involves some scientific puzzle things that only just about manage to avoid outstaying their welcome, but they come very close. Combat is great fun as you unleash a series of Spidey gadgets to take down enemies. Sometimes it can be a little overwhelming as the game throws like 8 foes your way at once, but for the most part you're given the crowd control tools to deal with it. All these side missions and collectibles work towards experience points to allow you to level up and put points into a skill tree, further enhancing your skill set. You also get a series of tokens which allow you to unlock and upgrade new gadgets, but most notably, gets you new Spider-Man suits. There are a few dozen different alternate costumes for your Spider-Man, all referencing past iterations of the wall crawler. Unlocking them and swinging through the city is delightful. Oh, there's a pretty darn great photo mode in there too. This game is stuffed. Iteration over innovation is the key to Marvel's Spider-Man's success. It doesn't reinvent the open world genre, nor does it give you a dramatically new take on Spider-Man, though the decision to feature an experienced Spidey is much appreciated. Instead, it focuses on perfecting every element of its package. The whole game is a generous heaping of content, all tied together by maybe the most enjoyable movement in any video game ever, especially 3D games. In a few years, Sony is going to walk on stage at E3, play the superb main theme, and reveal Marvel Spider-Man 2, and it will get you excited all over again about just how fun being Spider-Man was in the first place. Spider-Man gets 9 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching Spider-Man. I'm a big Spidey kid. I grew up in the 90s with that Spider-Man cartoon, and it's like, yeah, Spider-Man. And no matter how many times they reboot the films, I will go see all of the Spider-Man films. And I hope you are the same, and I'm so happy that there is a super duper good Spider-Man game. As always, if you enjoyed what you just saw, you can like or subscribe, or you can follow me on Twitter to get my ramblings about pretty much absolutely nothing, at Garrett Kidney, GARRETTKIDNEY. On your left, a video about what enemies in Super Mario Maker weigh, and on your right, a video about the top 5 2D platformers on Nintendo Switch. Thanks for watching.